Valentine's Day may have happened earlier in this month, but that's no reason to stop thinking of cool gifts and little presents that you can give the people in your life that you care about. In your bundle today, you have an embroidery needle that has a bigger hole at the top so you can fit embroidery thread in it. You also have some embroidery thread and 3 pieces of felt. They might not be the same colors as mine, but you should have 3 pieces. You'll also need some scissors today and a pen. And what we're going to do is we are going to sew some felt pouches that we can put little treats or notes or jokes inside of to give to our friends and family. I didn't have a ruler, so I used this container I had because I had an idea of creating a felt envelope that would open and close so I could change what was inside whenever I wanted to. So I imagined this shape. It was like a rectangle with a triangle point on top. And if you look at how I fold it, you can see that it really looks like an envelope once it's all folded. This is just one idea that I came up with. You could cut your felt into any shape that you would like. Here's an example of if you wanted to cut out a heart shape for a pouch. You could fold your piece of felt into 4. And if you need to, you can trace half a heart on the folded edge, but I didn't need to trace the heart, so I just cut it right out. And then when they are all unfolded, it creates a huge pouch that would look so cool, filled with tons of little Valentine heart candies or maybe even Hershey's Kisses. They would fit in there perfectly. I'll have some more ideas for you guys at the end of the video, but I would be really interested in seeing everything that you could come up with. Now, the hardest part of this whole activity is trying to thread your embroidery needle. That's something that's really difficult for me. But once you get it threaded, you're ready to learn the whip stitch. Now, to do the whip stitch, you pull your embroidery thread right through both sides of whatever you're sewing, and then you go back to the beginning and poke your needle in back to front again. I know that's a little confusing, but look at my hands and what I'm doing. I take my needle and I put it inside of what I'm sewing back to front, and then I pull the string all the way through and it creates this little loop over the edge of what I'm sewing. If it makes things easier, you can cut off your ball of embroidery thread and put a double knot on the end of your thread so that it doesn't pull through when you're sewing. Make sure you do a big knot because that would be terrible if you were sewing and pulling on your thread and pulling out all of the stitches as you went along sewing. Once you've got that knot secured, you can just keep going, putting your needle in back to front, all the way around the open edge of your project. And once you finish with one side, you just tie a knot to make sure everything's secure and your stitches don't fall out. Now, once in a while, you might get a knot in your thread. You'll see that that happens to me in a second here. And you can try and untie the knots. Sometimes it works and the embroidery thread comes apart, but if it is really stuck, you can always just get some scissors, pull out 1 or 2 of your stitches and tie a knot, and then start again with your embroidery thread and tie the loose ends together and just keep on sewing. This doesn't have to be perfect. This is a beginner sewing project, and once you learn the whip stitch, you will find that there are so many different things that you can create. I kept doing the whip stitch around the top edge of my envelope even though I wasn't sewing any pieces of felt together because I thought it would look really cool if the stitch continued on all the way around the envelope. And there you have it, it's finished. It's ready to slip in some jokes or a note to somebody saying how much I appreciate them, or even sneak in a little candy. And if you happen to have beads or buttons laying around at your house, it would be so cool to sew those on your projects as well. I think a button would have looked really cool on top of my envelope. I hope you guys have a good time testing out your own felt projects at home. And like I said, here are a couple of ideas that I found online that maybe you could copy and do at home. Have fun, guys, and I'll see you next month when we read some of my all-time favorite novels for the month of March.